This video is brought to you by Wix. Head on over to wix.com/go/polyphonic to check it out today. In 2006, My Chemical Romance set out to write an enduring piece of music. A piece of music that could define the youth of a generation and live on long past their lives. It's a noble goal, something many musicians have tried, but unlike most, MCR succeeded. They turned to the music their parents handed down to them and paired it with the timeless themes of love and mortality. The result was The Black Parade, an album that found itself scrawled into the notebooks of a generation of high schoolers, and an album that's still having impacts on today's musical world. Let's take a closer look. The Black Parade is a rock opera, styled after works like David Bowie's Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, and Pink Floyd's The Wall. And this is clear from the start of the album.
This tragic affair, wipe off that makeup, what's in his despair.
Musically, the album starts on a callback to Ziggy Stardust's 5 Years, and even opens on the same two chords, G and E minor. The opening also draws from the theatrics of In the Flesh, the dramatic intro to Pink Floyd's The Wall. MCR acknowledged as much in a commentary track for the album.
We wanted the end to feel a little bit like the beginning of The Wall. There's a song called In the Flesh. We wanted it to feel very much like that kind of beginning, like that you were about to get taken on a journey.
The end even borrows some musical cues from In the Flesh as well. Not just the music though, both The Wall and Ziggy Stardust saw their respective artists don new personas or aesthetics, and MCR did the same. Gerard Way cut and dyed his hair, and the band took up a new outfit. Dark marching band jackets, calling to mind a cabaret and the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, but with an emo twist. These outfits made their debut in the video for Welcome to the Black Parade. That video depicts the entire narrative of the album. The story opens in a hospital room where our protagonist, known only as the patient, is dying of cancer. In the album's second track, Dad, the patient gets the news that he only has 2 weeks left to live. In these moments, he realizes that nobody cares for him and that he's gonna die alone.
No one ever had much nice to say. I think it ever liked you anyway.
This song features another theatrical performance by Gerard Way, who takes on a number of characters, including the doctor delivering the news.
And in my honest observation, during this operation, found a complication.
The album's third track, This Is How I Disappear, taps into My Chemical Romance's emo roots. In his dying weeks, the patient reaches out to a long-lost loved one. Love is a recurring theme on this album, and it ties closely to the themes of death. When we die, it's our loved ones that remember us, that keep our memory going. Without anyone to love him, the patient will disappear upon his death. With this reflection, the album moves into darker, more desperate territory on The Sharpest Lives. Here, the patient is on death's doorstep, looking for something to take the pain away, and looking for someone to remember. Then we get to the album's centerpiece, Welcome to the Black Parade. This song shows off another one of My Chemical Romance's biggest influences, Queen's A Night at the Opera. Welcome to the Black Parade mirrors the theatrics of that album, and it didn't go unnoticed. Some have even called the song a Bohemian Rhapsody for a new generation. At the very least, it has the same effect when you play the opening notes in a room full of people of a certain age. In addition to being the album's centerpiece musically, it's also the lyrical crux of the album. In the album's commentary, Way talked about where this song came from.
I'd always like to believe that death comes for you however you want, subconsciously. And maybe it's like a manifestation of a strong memory. So for this character, the patient who's dying tragically young in his 30s in a hospital, his strongest memory is of his father taking him to see this parade in the big city when he was a little boy. So that's why death comes for him in the form of this Black Parade.
Though the Black Parade is death, it also provides a point of optimism for the patient, as it ensures that he won't disappear. His memory will carry on.
God, believe me.
The song also taps into musical theater with a gang vocal outro inspired by the musical Annie.
You'll never make me, because the world will never take my heart. Go and try, you'll never break me.
Welcome to the Black Parade is an encapsulation of the entire album, but its themes are fleshed out as the album continues. I Don't Love You is the patient reflecting on his love as he joins the parade. Then the scene starts to change in House of Wolves. That song features the patient's realization that he's headed to hell. Way described the scene in the track's commentary.
Or maybe he walks into a seedy bar in the afterlife and he's reminded of the wages of sin. That's what I kind of pictured.
The idea of the seedy bar is reflected in the music, which is meant to conjure a jazz club. In the heartbreaking Cancer, the patient continues to reflect on his life and his death. Then comes Mama, one of the standout tracks of the album. More than any other song on the album, it plays with cabaret in its music, and uses it to reflect on the ills of mankind. It features Mother War, one of the key characters of the album. Mother War marches in the Black Parade. She's a representation of the patient's fractured relationship with his own mother, but also of the darkness and ills of society. At this point, it's clear to the patient that he's in hell, and more than that, that there is no heaven. Everyone dies, and everyone goes to hell. This brings him into a state of disconnected apathy in sleep. If we all die and we all go to hell, there's no point in any of it. Or so the patient believes. He's also full of self-loathing for the mistakes he's made in his life. That brings us to Teenagers, where the patient reflects on how he was groomed to be a violent, angry individual by the society around him.
They're gonna rip up your heads, your aspirations to shreds. Another cog in the murder machine.
The album falls into a lull on Disenchanted, where the patient is moments away from death. But then the song ends on a final hope. It's not too late. He can go back to the living. And My Chemical Romance come in all guns blazing on Famous Last Words, which features a defiant chorus.
I am not afraid to keep on living.
As he faces death, the patient realizes that life is hard, but it's worth living. It takes courage to go on, to keep living, and to go home. It's an ambiguous ending. It's up to the listeners to decide whether the patient fights back to life or comes to peace with his death. Either way, it's a hopeful ending in a dark album, a defiant shout into the void. While the story ends on Famous Last Words, there's one more hidden track, Blood, a jaunty, grim tune about the nature of life. And on that strange, morbid note, the album ends. The Black Parade is an incredible album. It looks at a journey we must all take one day, the last journey we'll ever take. And in doing so, it's able to reflect on life, reflect on love, and reflect on what it means to be human. Musically, it's far-reaching and ambitious, pulling from some of the greatest works of our age. It was a massive undertaking for My Chemical Romance, but an important one. It became the defining album of their career, and for some, the defining album of an entire movement, an entire period of musical history. It's the embodiment of a certain era where an entire generation came of age. And its influence is starting to be felt now as a new generation of artists are turning to it for inspiration, just as MCR turned to the generations before them. It used to be that if you wanted to show your love for My Chemical Romance, you'd post their lyrics on your Angel Fire website, but thanks to Wix, it's now easy to build sleek, stylish websites to post your My Chemical Romance lyrics on. Wix is a fully customizable web building tool that you can use to build that website you've always imagined. They've got a variety of tools for people of all skill levels. It doesn't matter if it's your first or your 100th website. They have e-commerce functionality, so it's easy to build in a store and sell around the world, and if you're looking to express yourself, Wix gives you true creative freedom. You're not limited to templates. Your website can be as creative as your imagination. My own website, watchpolyphonic.com, was built on Wix, and I love it. So if you head on over to wix.com/go/polyphonic, you can check it out. Whether you want your website for music, bookings, a personal portfolio, or just a fun hobby, Wix will meet your needs. And be sure to use that link in the description to let Wix know that I sent you and to show your support for my channel.